What do we need, Sean?
Okay, it is Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. It is 6:38. I'm calling the regular council meeting to order. Ms. Monroe, if you could call the roll.
Mayor John Farmer.
Here.
Tiffany Hollis.
Here.
Ryan Green.
Here.
Dave Sealand.
Here.
Jeff Barr.
Present.
Wes Cole.
Here.
Albert Senior.
Here.
If you could please stand for the invocation. It's going to be given by Mr. Wes, or Councilman Webb Colpool, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many blessings, for bringing us through another day of safety. We thank you for being able to gather here freely tonight in this great nation, in this great community. We pray that the decisions and happenings over the next several years truly reflect your will. Give us guidance and strength in our coming days. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I had heard you write it down, or I was going to forget again. Good evening, everyone. Ms. Monroe sent us all the agenda. It was updated today, was it, Teresa?
Yes.
Okay. It is the updated agenda. Does anyone have any alterations or amendments to it they'd like to make? Hearing none, was the will of council?
Motion to approve the agenda is written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
March is Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. It's a very special month. And this is a proclamation that I've asked President Hollis to sign and to submit to the Development Disabilities Board. So, Ms. Hollis?
Yes, Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. Whereas people with developmental disabilities are a valuable part of our community, they contribute to our economy, are dedicated volunteers, valued friends, and family members. And whereas all people, regardless of ability, deserve equal access to opportunities and the ability to live fulfilling lives as independently as possible, with dignity, and whereas the Licking County Board of Developmental Disabilities, known as LCBDD, encourages all residents, businesses, and organizations to embrace inclusion, provide opportunities for people with developmental disabilities, and to create a welcoming environment for all. And whereas it is essential that county residents come together to break down societal barriers, challenge misconceptions, and continue to advocate for policies, practices, and spaces that are more inclusive and accessible for people of all abilities. Therefore, I, Tiffany Hollis, on behalf of the Johnstown City Council, do hereby proclaim March 2025 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month and present this proclamation to the Licking County Board of Developmental Disabilities on behalf of more than 2,600 people they support. During this month, we encourage all residents to get to know the LCBDD and the resources it provides to members of our community. Celebrating the accomplishments of people they support can further inspire us to raise awareness, learn about the challenge faced by people with developmental disabilities, and take action to promote inclusion and respect for all people. And I just want to say thank you for acknowledging this month as that, as I have a child with special needs, and it is, a cause close to my heart.
Awesome. Thank
you.
Next is action on minutes. We have two sets of minutes, February 10th and February 18th. The February 10th meeting, President Hollis was not able to be there, so we're going to need to do them separately.
Make a motion to approve February 10th as written.
Second.
Dave Sealand.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Abstain, absent.
Mayor Barnard.
Yes.
Wes Cole.
Yes.
Jeff Barr.
Yes.
Albert Senior.
Yes.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve February 18th as written.
I'll second.
Dave Sealand.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Yes.
Mayor Barnard.
Yes.
Wes Cole.
Yes.
Jeff Barr.
Yes.
Albert Senior.
Yes.
Great. Do we have any citizens' comments on matters not on the agenda tonight? You got something to say?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You want to come speak? We'll give you 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
3 minutes. Then Rusty's going to knock you down.
First of all, I want to thank you for the job that you do. I know it's not an easy one. but I appreciate your efforts and what it is you do. My name is Paul Cook. I live at 332 Batecchia Boulevard here in Johnstown in the Concord Crossing East Subdivision. My background is in industrial safety, spending the last 16 years in the U.S. Department of Labor as a safety professional. I am not a representative of the association or the residents, although many of the residents share my concerns. I come here tonight to discuss several issues regarding public safety within that division, a subject that the association board fails to recognize, saying that they have no authority to enforce. Construction has restarted on the new development year, increasing traffic on Hainbrake Avenue with larger truck traffic and heavy equipment deliveries. They are currently delivering loads of dirt within that division, within the division roads. The issues are excessive speed within the division, especially on Hainbrake Avenue, the road parallel to the pool pickleball court, and the current addition to the development. That is a racetrack, both ways. There's a long stretch of road, for those that you may not be familiar with, it's a long stretch of road parallel to that area. Blatant disregard to the stop signs posted. And I don't mean people just easing through, I mean people going through. Drivers coming up Batecchia Boulevard, making U-turns north-south on Batecchia Boulevard in front of the pool entrance. So they're coming up past my house toward the pool and making a U-turn there at the pool entrance. Now, that place is going to be coming on board here quickly in the pickleball court with extra traffic. No safe access from the sidewalks to the pool. People walking across Hainbrake Avenue to access the pool, the need for a crosswalk and signage. The lack of posted speed limit signs. There's one sign in that full development, 25-mile speed sign, and that is located at the entrance near the roundabout. So people coming in that development are navigating a roundabout and not actually looking at a sign, not that the 25-mile-an-hour speed sign applies to everyone. Hainbrake Avenue has 4 main access roads in Hillbrink Alley, running north-south between Batecchia and Middleburn Street. And with the additional access coming from the new development, with 1 access drive to the pool and 4 new roads north-south into the new development. So you're going to have multiple intersections plus the pool entrance.
Sir, you are at 3 minutes.
I'm sorry,
You are at 3 minutes.
We're going to give you 30 seconds more, if you can finish up.
I'm almost done. I'm understanding that the reduced enforcement due to lack of manpower in a large patrol area, and I'm requesting additional signage, crosswalk, speed bumps to be installed on Hainbrake Avenue to reduce the traffic speed. It's important to note that development roads are used by young and old walkers, bike riders, people on little scooters. So there's a lot of public traffic on that road. And something needs to be done. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you.
Any questions that I need to answer, or?
We'll, in a second. Jack, how do we go about getting more speed limit signs?
Speed signs are not a problem. We can
Okay.
get those put up. What I would like to do is confer with Rusty, see where he thinks the best placement and of how many signs, and then I'll get them installed.
Oh, go ahead.
The stop signs, which are pretty obvious, aren't being adhered to. Additional, so now we're going to put speed limit signs in someone's yard. It is not uncommon whatsoever to have a speed limit sign at the top of a subdivision that has a singular entrance point that says 25 miles in our entire subdivision. Is that enforceable, Chief? Chief, is that enforceable to say, if you say, well, I didn't see a sign? I mean,
It depends on the person. They can use what they want, but it's probably not gonna work in court.
so you think additional signs would be necessary to make that enforceable?
I've spoke to Jack and others about this issue. I wanted to get more signs placed in the subdivision. I was told that they don't want them in the subdivision. If you guys wanna put more signs up, I have no problem.
I will go to the HOA meeting next week.
I think maybe we push this to safety and
It's
service.
like the new thing, is this new subdivisions, they don't want the signs look tacky. They don't want the no parking signs, they don't want the stop sign, I'm sorry.
Stop signs you have to have,
They don't want the speed limit signs, because they don't want it in their yard, it looks bad.
right.
I think there are enough HOA parcels in there, they could be placed on the HOA parcels.
Well, let's push this to safety and service,
And not.
engage HOA, obviously,
But I'm-
enforcement of speeding.
How do we go about getting a crosswalk, like painted on the road? How much is it?
Tell me where you want them and we'll paint them.
By the pond.
I'm going to jump in if I can, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
so I don't get pushed the other way on this. I would advise that you instruct me to get with staff and look into the comments and concerns shared by Mr. Cook, and then have the chief and Jack work together to address some of the concerns, and then at the next council meeting, we can share with you what game plans, if any, or all, that we've come up with.
Sounds good.
Sounds
I
perfect.
would be more than happy to meet with any of you out there and just give you an idea of,
Okay.
my phone picks it all up. And you'd be surprised who's blowing through that stop sign.
Is it me? 'Cause I try to stop.
I'm sorry?
I try to stop, so if it's me, let me know.
No, actually, I'm not going to go into finger pointing. I mean, most of the issues are with the residents there. But, you have an increased traffic presence with the new development now with springtime, and they've just started Monday, or Friday, hauling dirt from down below the development. So you have two big dump trucks running up through there. But the thing about it is, if you're not going to obey the stop sign and the speed sign,
So the issue is I believe I dealt with this with you last year. The issue is that if we're there, they stop.
yeah, only
If we're there, they obey the speed limit.
your guy was sitting
So-
out
So
there.
we sit there and then we get 4 vehicles within an hour when we could be more productive at other areas within our community.
I agree with you. I was sitting in my office
You know,
Friday maybe, and a certain individual that's there every day, Monday through Saturday, making a delivery in every house, you do the math. And
They're the biggest violators.
he stopped. And I thought, what the hell? And I looked out and one of your patrolmen was sitting over at the pool. Only a fool's gonna blow through there with you guys sitting there, and I took him over a Gatorade and the water, and we talked for quite a
Appreciate
bit.
that.
Hey, I love your guys.
But like I said, if we're there, they obey.
Yeah.
They can clearly see us, no matter where we sit there.
Yeah.
They can see us.
Yeah, here I am.
So that comes back to Mr. Orsini's question. Are more signs going to help?
Stop it or
They're
not?
not gonna solve the
Because that's
problem.
not the problem.
You need speed bumps on that road.
Well,
That's a much bigger
Any of those,
conversation.
negotiated?
I know what you're
with the
going, where you're going with
Like,
this.
are there any requirements or agreements?
Let me ask you this.
Or-
For speed bumps?
Yeah.
Since this is on the record,
We don't allow speed bumps.
if you have somebody hit out there,
They're easy enough to get.
have a
pulled over.
fatality,
Say, can
what
you
is that gonna cost the
dial the
city?
Traffic down to one road.
Us?
I'm sorry?
Us?
Because the development's
Not
happening in
us, the city. I mean,
development's happening in the.
with this on
right
record,
behind the pool.
knowing that there is an issue there.
Wow, that's a,
That would
It's
come-
no different if it
that would-
happens
that would
on
come to
South
them
Main
for
Street.
not obeying the stop sign.
Well,
Speeding.
the question is,
It wouldn't fall directly on the city. I see where you're trying to go, but it would not fall directly on the city. It would fall on that person, not
Okay.
adhering to the traffic laws of this community.
the one stop sign, or the stop signs and the speed
So
limit.
yeah, so if someone runs a stop sign, then they would be the ones that would be held accountable for that violation.
The only thing that's
Not
gonna
the city of
slow
Johnson.
things down out there is speed bumps on that road. You put all the signs up you want, you could put all of the, you could do what you want, but the only thing that's gonna stop it is speed bumps.
Okay.
Well, I would say
We-
let's take a look at it and we can take this to safety and service.
So we'll,
Next
Sean
safety
and Sean will
service.
get with Jack and Rusty, start figuring out things and go to safety service. So thank you,
More
Mr.
than happy to meet with any of you, just come knock on a door, let me know, and if you want my phone number, it's 614.
No, 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 because
Don't do that to yourself.
very careful with that.
All right,
It'll be out there forever.
It's public record.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
all right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council committee reports, planning and zoning, they met February 25th. Their next one is March 11th at 6:30 in council chambers. Anything to report from the last meeting?
I will defer this to Sean as I was unable to attend.
I will take a break from my email and pull from memory. So we had a pretty productive meeting. Two highlight reels as far as agenda items. One of the agenda items you will see with the next council meeting, I believe, on the March 11th?
No, March 18th.
No, it is April.
April, yes, it goes to April, sorry. Yep, you're right.
And what this particular ordinance before you will address a zoning text amendment for the LM district. There is an applicant that has made a request that a specific use be added to the LM district for, and I'm going to go off of memory, for powder coat and paint manufacturing. So this was reviewed by the board. They came up with some really great questions and conversations, and at the end of it, they recommended to council for approval. The second item that was on the docket, help me out, Teresa, I'm blanking.
There was a sign proof.
There was a variance for a sign.
I care.
That one was relatively easy. Well, you're thinking of the third item, I'll give them the sign. So the sign variance for the additional placement of a wall sign on what's the now Professional Vision Care, used to be the PNC Bank or Crowworks. One wall sign is permitted. So in order to achieve two wall signs, a variance has to be permitted. In the last 3 to 4 years, it has been consistent for an additional wall sign to be permitted. So they used the precedent that had been set whenever they made their determination in allowing for that particular wall sign. What was the third one? It was a big one. I don't know why I can't remember.
It was the
I watched it.
nursing home? Yeah.
Nursing home,
Yes.
gosh, yeah, it was actually, whew.
And that's a great thing that we were able to do with that too.
Yeah, so conditional use, nursing home is a conditional use within a not a residential, the village commercial district. And whenever that happens, it has to come before the board. It's just not a blanket approval. So they have to evaluate that. And typically, the conditional use has some more intensity to it. So they just want to make sure additional provisions aren't necessary to maybe soften some of the intensifications that you could have with mixing residential and the nursing home, as well as some of the other uses in that area. So there was a litany of conditions placed on that. They still have to come back for a variance approval for the setback. So it is conditioned upon that. And I don't have it in front of me, but if you will allow me, by the end of the meeting, I will find my notes and I will give you, or at the next meeting, I can provide you with all of the conditions that were placed on that. There is some financial contributions to the city for curbs that would be installed, obviously noting that there could be an expansion of the roadway there. And typically, the development is responsible for installing curbs. If they were to be installed, they would likely be torn out at a later date, so we would accept a payment in lieu of, so that that contribution could be made towards the curbs at a later time. Also, the sewer main is located on that property. Might actually get them all out. Sewer main is located on that property, and it is going to have to be redirected. This will require additional structures to be put in place. Additional structures typically requires additional maintenance. So another provision will be discussed about financial contributions to the city for the additional maintenance and requirement. These will be one-time payments. You got the minutes in front of you? Mm-hmm. All right, read them off if you got them. All the conditionals.
There's a great site plan that you guys will see too. Losing a number of the homes over there on 62 at the nursing home on
So it's the Johnstown Point expansion.
Johnstown
Okay.
Point.
Yeah,
I was
picturing
hoping
the
it was
other one,
I was
weren't you
hoping it
too?
was
Yeah,
that
me
one.
too.
I really
There's a number of houses that
I
are,
was like,
yeah.
wow, I had no idea
There's
this
a
was
number
so
of
cool.
houses that are coming down, so they're gonna have an increased park space.
Is it just one or two houses?
3,
There's,
All three, all the ones with, what's her name?
yes.
yeah,
All her rentals.
And you're sparking memory. So additionally, there's going to be a traffic study that has to be done in case a turn lane is needed. Their traffic study likely will not trigger a turn lane. However, if it is, they have two options. One, install it, or two, again, a payment in lieu of, so that it can be done in a broader scope of additional improvements in that area. The reason I say it likely won't warrant it, and I'm not a traffic engineer, you're actually removing 3 curb cuts along 62, which is a benefit to the city, filtering them into one, which is actually helpful from a traffic standpoint. So that was an additional one. There's only a couple
Cover
more.
the fire lane.
Fire lane, we always like less impervious pavement. A fire lane is being installed, but it is not going to be a functional lane necessarily for the residents or for their population. It is specifically for a fire lane. And if Monroe Township would allow to put in a grass fire lane, which can be done with proper materials, that we would prefer that, but noting that if they do require it, then we will obviously require them to do it as well. Did I get all of them?
I think you did.
All right, great. So we had a whole bunch of conditions on that. But again, that got approved with all the conditions provided. City will work with the development of that property, get those traffic studies, get those payments in lieu of, and go from there.
Thank you. Design Review Board, their 2/25 meeting was canceled. Their next is March 11th at 5 o'clock in council chambers. Design Guidelines Steering Committee, the ad hoc committee, they met yesterday at 5:30. Do you guys want to go over what happened there?
You want to say, or do you want me to?
They've heard me enough. If you want to be more to the point, it'd probably be easier, but if not.
It was just, an outline was provided, kind of like an index, like an outline to the guidelines, kind of the headings, and so they kind of just discussed those. And then, I think 4 weeks, he said? In 4 weeks, he was gonna come back with a draft that they can start
Yeah.
working through.
I'll jump in. Sorry, I threw Teresa to the wolves there. So last night, what we did is we created a skeleton. In 4 weeks, we'll put a little meat on the bone of that skeleton. So the skeleton outlines the kind of the framework of it, the purpose, specific areas, how those areas are to be broken down into different segments, and then some of the parameters that'll be identified with it. So.
Awesome. Safety and Service, they met tonight. Was there anything to report from that meeting?
Yeah, solid meeting. We had, go through the list here, we had talked about a sidewalk on Jersey Street, talked about the large street trees on Main Street, and hopefully to have some more information coming to you as we work on those issues. Also talked about snow removal downtown, the traffic light on 62, and pothole repair schedule coming up this spring.
Great. Finance next meeting is March 18th at 5:30 in council chambers. Director reports, we received water, sewer, and streets. Does anyone have any questions on those three for Mr. Liggett? Hearing none, I'll let Mr. Liggett go into his report.
Okay, thank you. Item number 1, water plant updates. Jacobs Engineering actually met with the EPA on Monday to discuss the expansion of flow rates in the existing portion of the plant. Those discussions went well. We got the GMP from Bowen, which I have passed along to the city manager for review. Item 2, wastewater plant update. Rick Fitch and I met with Jacobs Engineering discussing placement of buildings and equipment. That's been an ongoing process, trying to determine where different buildings will fit and go in with the flow train at the wastewater plant. We're going to jump down to item 5, leak detection equipment. We are starting to run through the town again. So its first deployment is over in Concord Crossing East, and those correlators were placed over in that area today. Item 7 was a little disappointing. Johnstown did not receive any funding on any of their Ohio Public Works projects. At our next safety service meeting or finance, whichever we want to go, I would like to know if there's any projects that we are going to try to do with what would have been the city match or funding. So we have time to think about and see if we can put together any projects on any roads, as we did not get that funding this year. And last item, number 9, which I think will make everybody somewhat happy, MP Dory did receive the majority of the equipment needed to fix the light at Park Drive and 62. They got everything in but the battery backup system, so I asked them to go ahead and put it on the schedule. Let's get that started, and then throughout the year, we have many things that MP Dory comes in and works on, and we'll put the battery backup in. I'll connect that to another project where they're coming in, so we don't have to pay a separate drive-in to do the work, the separate scheduling. So, in any event, they said they'd try to get us on the schedule within the next 2 weeks to work on that light at Clark and 62.
Awesome.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Only one thing I want to add, and Jack, you were not at the last meeting, so probably that's why you didn't realize it was a hot topic. The water line on 62.
I was just getting ready to ask.
I knew they were going to come back to it, so I wanted to give you a chance. Can you give us an update? I know I talked to Rick about it, but you probably have direct contact with Rick as well. So give us an update on the water line at 62 and
Yes.
the repair of that.
Before I left on vacation, I met with Rick and actually Tim Perry because I believe I figured out where the water was coming from. And so I had them excavate down on the main while I was gone. We did locate an old service line that was running across the road to the house across the street. The crew got it dug up, shut the water off at the corp stop, which is the fitting to the main. Water stopped running. So after a long siege, we found out where that water was coming from, had TLV excavating come in, bored a new line underneath the road, hooked the house up, leak is repaired. We just have to fix yards and sidewalk once the weather gets fit.
How many of those lines do you think are still left in town?
Well, it actually ran across the house. It was an active line. It wasn't an abandoned line. We believe that house came off of Ford Street. And that's why we weren't thinking the line running across the road, but we finally had to get desperate and try more things to see where it was coming from. And,
How old do you think that line was?
It's actually copper.
it
so
was copper, so
fairly
it
new.
had been worked on once sometime, but I actually found it by taking 2 coat hangers and I witch wired it across the road. I mean, with all of our new technology and our leak equipment, I was stumped, so I went out there with what we call witching wires, and I was able to trace it across the road. So I said, Rick, dig here. The problem with witching wires is it'll pick up water lines, it'll pick up tile, it'll pick up sewer lines. But we had water coming up there, so I said, let's dig here. And the guys in bitter cold, because I called and talked to them every day from Florida where it was much warmer. Tim or Rick gave me a report every day, and they worked very hard and got the job completed. So it is fixed and done.
Okay,
Good
perfect.
news.
Thank you. Okay, we have no tabled legislation, so we're going to move into.
Question that I did have.
Go ahead.
So can you expand on the OPWC funding?
No.
The answer is actually right now, no. We were rejected. I did see that our manager has asked for a scoring sheet to see where we went low. I was very surprised because we haven't requested in 2 years, and so.
So I would like to add on to that. I would like to not only know the scoring sheet, I would like to know who makes the decisions for the city of Johnstown
Sure.
and who's on that committee that makes that decision. Because
Find out.
there should be no reason that we get rejected for them.
For both, no.
For
I
both.
mean, whether
For
one
both
or-
and
one or
with
the
the
other.
school, like.
And that one was scored, that one was the lowest of the two, the one next to the
Yeah,
school.
so the scoring came back. I looked at the scoring. I believe it was 117 for one of them, and I can't remember off the top of my head for the other. But the repaving projects actually scored higher than the Douglas Street, so which is why I had requested additional information. It doesn't provide it in the summary that it gives you. It just kind of gives you all of the approved projects, all of the non-approved projects, and then it has the scores associated with it. It's a scoring metrics that's utilized. Now, there's probably some interpretation whenever scores are given. So those are areas where I think if we want to submit them again, and we want to understand where we scored low, we could gain a lot of value by understanding the areas that obviously didn't score as quite as high as we thought. We initially thought we were going to be in the 130s. I think the lowest score that was actually awarded funding was in the 131 range. So we were at like a 117, 118.
So on top of who's on the committees, who makes the decisions, please also find out what townships around us were approved.
What I will do is actually get you the list of all the approved projects. I have access to that and all the unapproved projects, and on there will be the scoring associated with each of them, and I can have that out to you, and then I'll work on finding out the personnel associated with scoring, and then also get a hold of, hopefully, our scoring metrics on our specific projects.
Thank you.
Usually a project related to the school, in joint with the school or a park, usually are looked at very favorably. I was kind of surprised that the paving actually was higher than the connection to the project with the school, because you talk about young people traveling, walking, sidewalks, road. It seemed like it had every component that would have been looked at favorably, so I was curious myself.
We all are. Thank you.
I have a follow-up question with all of this. I know we were not late, but we were certainly on short timelines to get this together. Familiar with some of these grant projects from the state that usually there is a preliminary review of your application where you can get some kind of indication from the reviewer to try to help better your score. Is this a grant that provides that opportunity?
It does not. And we felt like we had a pretty solid application. As always, I think every year, you always kind of run it down to the wire, but we were able to get all the associated letters from the agencies that supported with the project, the school. Engineers had the appropriate time to put together what they believed was appropriate for the application so that we could submit it for them. So, not a
Actually, in all
misstated.
fairness, we had more letters and backing than, I would say, any other application I had ever put in over the last 30 years.
We did our homework.
It makes you go,
Yep, you never know. So we'll get more information and find out.
Okay. So we're going to move to public hearings legislation. The first one, Resolution 2025-08, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the purchase of property. So before I give this to Sean, I'd like to kind of give it to Jack real quick to explain this sewer plant that we're going to be building that's needed for Johnstown. When the initial engineering was done, we found something interesting that we needed more land, correct? Or you want to talk about that?
I would reserve some of that for later. The ink is not necessarily dry.
Okay.
So this is just an authorization tonight, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
This is just an authorization tonight for me to enter into a purchase contract from the JYA, and I can walk the wave tops with it.
Perfect.
If you would like. So we are doing a sewer plant expansion in the future. I want to specify in the future. We don't have an exact date when we will trigger that need for it, but we know it's quickly approaching. We will scale that appropriately. And with that, we are doing our homework again, and we are doing the design and the engineering on it, so that way, whenever that time does come, we are not hamstringed by having to get all of those things done prior to the need of the additional sewer capacity. So with all of that said, the engineering had started to do, quite a bit of review on it, and they came up with a determination that if we had the additional property next to the sewer plant, that it would be beneficial and provide a more optimized outcome for the city from a cost perspective, but also just from a functionality perspective. And so we reached out to JYAA, the landowners of that specific property, and floated an idea. There was a lot of interaction and discussion on all things park related. So it was a really good conversation. We were able to dive into a lot of other segments. At the end of the day, where we landed was to keep this very specific with this particular property, but we love the opportunity to engage in those discussions further as they relate to the Greater Park and Rec District and the JYA and the exciting things that they've got going on and the potential possibilities of all things related to parks. So with this, keeping it rather simplified for this, it's 8 acres there. The city more or less probably needs 2, but realizing that we have a master plan at some point, hopefully delivered for a larger park there. The city actually owns the property around it. It was determined, I think, by both parties that this made more sense for us to kind of control all of it. And a lot of it is in a floodplain, a little bit landlocked. So it's rather difficult and challenging for the JYA to be able to utilize this. So again, we had a great partnership a few weeks back with the school district. Probably another great opportunity for a partnership with the JYA with this particular piece to facilitate possible expansion of the sewer plant in the future. Gave you a lot of fluff there. Hopefully it was,
Can I ask one question?
you absolutely can.
And I don't know if this is part you want to skip over, but just for the community to understand why we even are entertaining this, a range maybe of what the savings would be by having this extra property versus
Sure.
if we didn't, we had to do the engineering
Sure.
and build the plant without the land.
And that's great, and I'll delicately dance into that, and I think I have the ability to do that. It was a
Not
significant.
an exact number, just a range
Sure.
maybe?
The savings was significant, so much so that we obviously started to have the discussion with JYA. Originally, we thought we could do it on the site, which we still can. It just was identified that if we could purchase it for the $150,000 amount, that it would provide substantial cost savings for the water and sewer plant. That range could have been, anywhere from $200,000, which would still give you a $50,000 savings, up to, $500,000. A lot of it has a lot of variables that, in order to answer those variables, would have to take further design and engineering. And so before we wanted to start that design and engineering, we've been able to work out a great deal with them. And I think what Tiffany is getting at, and I'll just put it out there, and I should have said this at the beginning, the cost associated with purchasing the land will more than offset this and will facilitate a higher savings than what we would have spent.
We're going to save, what Ms. Hollis was talking about, is we're going to save the taxpayer or the users
Absolutely.
money in the future by doing this.
Oh,
Significant amount.
absolutely, yeah.
But I think to go back to your question, it would fit on our existing site, but constructability was going to be very difficult because of property lines.
Which would lead to more expense.
Which meant
Timing.
timing
yeah.
and building would be much slower because they had to respect those property lines. So, yes, it could have fit when URS originally designed the plant that's down there. They designed it for the expansion there on site, but our contractors said constructability is going to be really difficult staying on site. So the additional cost, I think, is exactly what Sean has explained. That it made constructability that much easier by having that extra ground. Then you also have room for expansion to the future if we go past the 2 acres.
And yes, the savings that we will incur are higher than the cost associated with
Yes.
the JYA purchase.
Okay,
That's what you wanted.
Does council have any questions for anybody on this?
None.
What is the will of council for Resolution 2025-08? And I'm withholding public comment since there's no public here tonight.
Make a motion to approve, let me get up the name, Resolution 2025-08 as written.
Second?
Bob Orsini?
Yes.
Dave Seeland?
Yes.
Brian Green?
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis?
Yes.
Mayor Barnard?
Yes.
Wes Coble? Jeff Bond?
Affirm.
Okay, so I am not going to dance lightly into this resolution. This is Resolution 2025-09. This piece of legislation is my proudest legislation in the 2 years I've been on. The teamwork between President Hollis and City Manager Stainer to get this done, and the work they've done has been incredible. But I want to make a statement on this before I get into this resolution. There are individuals and agents outside of our city that are making comments and lying to people that we are in the process of trying to annex every piece of land outside the city of Johnstown, and that is a lie. We have taken calculated and a slower strategy in moving forward until the developments are done. But the fact that Johnstown is trying to annex property and take farmland from farmers is an absolute lie, and I think everyone up here agrees with that, because that is not what we've been trying to do. President Hollis called me this week and had an idea. We're tired of the lies, we're tired of the comments from people outside of our city saying we're trying to do this. She asked, would I support a resolution that we would not annex property owned by the Fords if it meant we could keep them from going into any kind of JEDs. So Resolution 2025-09, a resolution authorizing the city manager into a non-annexation agreement. Whereas the Ford family are longtime Johnstown and Johnstown adjacent residents, but do not wish for their property to be annexed in the city or developed at this time. And whereas the city of Johnstown was given a joint economic development district agreement from Monroe Township to review, at which time it was communicated to the city that the property owner wished to enter into a JED and to remain undeveloped and unannexed. And whereas the city, realizing JED agreements typically facilitate commercial development, which the family has said they do not want development, it investigated alternatives to a JED, which would allow for more flexibility in the future while still allowing the property owner to maintain the rural, undeveloped status quo, which is Johnstown. Whereas after careful consideration and reviewing the comprehensive plan, this action would not negatively impact the current economic development desires of the city of Johnstown. It should also be noted that this particular piece of property is completely surrounded by rural area and not contiguous to the city or any intense planned development. And whereas the city of Johnstown shares a desire to maintain, when possible, the rural characteristics of the surrounding area, it should also be noted that much of this land is situated along a stream corridor floodplain, which should be cautiously developed in order to preserve the physical beauty and environmental benefits of the area. And finally, whereas the city respects the Ford's wishes and therefore offers to enter into this agreement to ensure that for the term of this agreement, in exchange for the property not being developed, the city will not take any steps towards annexing and will not annex the property into the city. I think this is a wonderful piece of legislation, and I want to thank these two. Ms. Hollis, if you have anything to say.
No, I just, I feel that anytime we have a family or a resident that it's okay to be against development. It's okay to want to protect your property, and we have to respect that any way that we can. And I also would say that it's, so important for us as a council, not only to work together amongst ourselves, but collaborating with our surrounding townships and supporting each other and having open communication. And I think this is a really good example of when there isn't open communication, signals get crossed. And, that's kind of what I was hoping this would just open the communication back up with the Ford family, and that we could come to a solution that appeases everyone involved. And one other thing, there are two houses on Caswell Road that are, this is my selfish ploy, were built in the 1800s, and as a person that is it's important to preserve those houses. And one is on the National Registry, and all of those things are important, and those are things we should take into consideration as development's happening. We have to do this responsibly. And I do feel like as a city, we have probably had our foot on the brake harder than any other, anyone else in the surrounding area or region, to a fault at times. I would admit that too, to a fault at times. But this is an example of a family that does not want development. They have, communicated that, and we need to respect it. That's my 2
Thank
cents.
you. Sean, do you have anything to add?
No, you guys did a tremendous job of unpacking that. The whereases were carefully written to, I think, reflect the views of council. So it doesn't always work in this way, but I think oftentimes we probably have more in common with the landowners than they may realize. Tiffany and Mayor Bernard stated correctly that we do respect the rural characteristic of the area, and it's Johnstown's desire to preserve that whenever possible. And this is a great opportunity, given the landscape of that land. Looking at our comprehensive plan, this does not conflict with our comprehensive plan whatsoever. It doesn't impede our economic development situation. So there was a lot of boxes that this checked, and it's a win-win, we feel like, for the city as well as the property owner to be able to respect their rights, and for the city to be able to remain a little bit more rural in the development that's around us. Now, this will be obviously a resolution authorizing me to enter into that contract. We have verbally communicated this to the property owner so that they're aware of our intent, but we teed this up in a way that doesn't allow me to negotiate in bad faith. The last thing I want to do is have a more formal conversation that would then have to be approved at a later date by you, and then for whatever reason, if it wasn't, then I would feel pretty terrible about the comments that I made. But so far, I think we're capturing the essence of council and everything that's stated, so.
Awesome.
I think, can I add one other thing?
Yep.
I just would never want any resident to make decisions for their property out of fear of annexation without us at least having a conversation first. And I think this was another example of that too, that they, in an absolute last-ditch effort to not be annexed out of fear of annexation, they've entertained other ideas, which they may go with, and that's okay too. But I just kind of want to open the door for that we're here to have those conversations. We're not the big bad uglies.
No.
Always.
Do you want me to elaborate on a little bit of background on how we got here? And it was a JED agreement that was given to us by Monroe Township. There was consideration for a JED. Joint Economic Development District is the alphabet soup associated with the word JED. Hearing those specific words, Joint Economic Development District, knowing that the property owner doesn't want development, this was our response to maybe a different way that they could achieve the preservation of their rural characteristic. So I think creatively Tiffany came up with this and put Yaz and myself to work over the weekend, and we were able to cobble this together pretty quickly. So again, this was not an action that we facilitated. This kind of came to us, and this is our reaction to that. So,
Does council have any questions on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I have one question. I know we've had conversations about, I am a staunch proponent of landowners' rights. Only in the narrowest scope would I ever consider doing something against the landowner. So Tiffany, you spoke with the Fords, and everything in this agreement is aligned with what their wishes are.
To the best of my knowledge.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
to the best of that conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just, I mean, the assumption is based on how it's written, and it is, but I just want to confirm that. Because if
I mean,
there
the
was anything
conversation we
did-
had is they do not want development. They do not want annex. They do not want development. I believe the word was ever. So,
It's their property, it's their right.
I think we're giving them the best option that we can with representing the city too. We have a duty to represent the city also. But I'm with you on landowner rights and representing them too, so.
As far as annexation goes, in my time on council, I'm certain of, and to my knowledge, every annexation the city of Johnstown or village of Johnstown did prior to that, if at all, was at the landowner's request.
Yeah.
The city does not go out and take property.
Exactly.
Is it possible? Yes. Does it happen? Almost never.
We have
And
never, ever discussed it.
and if it's never even come up, and my assumption would be with this group, it would be shot down immediately. But just to further talk about annexation, the fear of the city wanting to annex, it hasn't happened to this point, and nor do I see it happening in the future. The landowners request, because they want the police service, they want the water, they want the sewer, they want the things that the city can provide. If they don't want it, then you do what you want, it's your property. That's it.
Yep. Any other questions for council? Okay. I make a motion that we pass resolution 2025-09 as written.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Mayor Barner?
Sorry. I
Yes.
just paused.
It's okay.
Mayor Barner?
Yes.
Wes Cobble?
Yes.
Jeff Barr?
Yes.
Bob Rossini?
Yes.
Dave Seeland?
Yes.
Ryan Green?
Yes.
Tiffany Holland?
Yes.
Great, thank you, guys. There's no other introduction of legislation, so we're gonna move to other business. I've got a couple of things real quick. Is council in favor of creating a committee to look at sidewalks throughout this town? Teresa, I know you hate me.
I think safety and service should just do that.
Yeah, well, safety and service will tackle that.
Yeah.
Look at this, what sidewalks are selected, how the scoring, okay. Okay. We've danced around sidewalks for many years. The sidewalks are awful.
Let's go back to the assessing a sidewalk.
Yes.
Are any of us qualified to do this?
That's why I wanted to get a committee to figure out how to do that, who to put together to do that.
Not to
Well,
actually assess, but
We
to,
can, we're gonna
start.
spend 20 minutes talking about this if we do it right now.
Yeah,
So
let's-
we can identify it in safety and service. The trouble is, this is probably not even the third time this has, come up. So I'm sure Bob has seen this on council before, where they've tried to tackle or at least discuss sidewalks.
Yeah, well, it was the
Yeah.
14, it was the bricks.
So it's not gonna be
right?
easy,
So
but we'll talk about
There's
it.
a lot.
We need to get moving on
I agree
this.
with you, Mr. Mayor, that we should ask Sean in all his free time to consider how we're gonna move from what we have in dilapidation or non-existent to a desired, always meet code, but a desired width, and how to do that consistently so we don't have our sidewalks going like this all the way throughout.
Well, it's not even that. If you try to go down Main Street from Concord to,
That's easy.
Leafy Dell.
They need dug up. That's a funding
those
issue.
are, I mean, there's uneven.
We'll
ones
talk
that
all
big.
the above.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, just to pile on what Bob was saying, why don't you direct staff to do an inventory of the sidewalks? Probably won't be done tomorrow. It may take some time.
So Friday?
Friday of May, May 5th, Friday, sure. Allow us some time, get with Jack, maybe get some EMH&T, and I say that because Jack's probably gonna need some additional help, and maybe not. It's probably not gonna be overly complicated, but allow us to do an assessment of the sidewalks, give us a list of worst sidewalks out there, and then what we can do is rank those, and then also define most utilized. So sometimes the worst sidewalk, replacing that doesn't utilize.
Cost benefit of it, yes. I
Yeah.
understand.
And
I just
then-
think we owe our residents.
Sure. Well, and we'll give a ranking after we assess, condition as well as functionality, and then we'll give you guys a list, and then at Safety and Service, you guys can drill down through the list of maybe top 10, and then we'll also, this is where we'll get some funding associated with the project, so we'll get some cost estimates for each segment of prioritized sidewalk. Like I said, we'll probably drill it down to about 10, so that way we're not doing the entire city at once from a cost perspective, and then present that to Safety and Service for your final review.
Okay,
That way
thank
you
you.
guys aren't. in
So is that the intent, that when we have this assessment, we're funding sidewalk?
Well, I was going to I'll give the safety and service. I've reviewed different cities throughout the United States and even Canada. There's different programs of how they go about doing this. Some cities pay to replace the whole sidewalk. Some of them go after the homeowner. Some of them are a combination of the homeowner and the city replace them. So there's different alternatives I think we can look at to
There's
get these
data that
sidewalks
already
replaced.
exists on this, I would
So
imagine.
how can we facilitate getting this
Previous
done,
conversations.
sidewalks fixed?
Send an email to Jack.
Either by the residents or the city in a faster way than it has been done. Some of these sidewalks should have been replaced 20, 30 years ago. And I don't want to leave council knowing that we didn't do anything about these sidewalks and pass on to another generation. Okay,
While they're doing that, are we gonna have discussion of how it's funded?
Yes.
Because you're correct, you could do it with enforcement. You
Yes.
could pay, you could,
we're going to have to look at all avenues. So once they identify it, it goes to finance, we talk about it, and then we can
put a lien against their home.
there's lots of avenues, yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, it should parallel them trying to do this,
Yep.
if it's that important.
The other committee I would like to try to create, since you guys shot down my first committee, is creating a facility committee to look at our future facilities, and get a group together to start looking at planning for the future. So, if we can do that, it doesn't need to start right this moment, but if we could get something started this summer, start looking at our future facilities, what we want to do, our plans, so that in 2 years, we have a total plan to go for the future.
Yeah, we'll need to create an ad hoc committee or send that through a couple committees. That's the only two ways I see to do it.
So Teresa, could you look up something like that to see if there's a committee like that we could build?
We could create any committee.
We can
Okay.
create any ad hoc committee we want, or we can run that project through You can run it through safety and service, finance, and whoever. Or
I'll
have a
get with you
joint
this
meeting.
week and we'll figure out an avenue and then bring it to council next time. Okay. OPWC we talked about. Mr. Landy, can you get me our most recent debt schedule? Okay. And then Chief, one question, President Hollis and I were discussing, is it possible to reduce the speed limit downtown from 25 to 15?
No,
So legally, we can only go to 25?
the lowest you can have in the state of Ohio per ordinance is 25.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had. Bob, do you have anything?
I want to extend a congratulations to Kaylin Casto. She's a senior at Johnstown High. She qualified for the ladies state wrestling tournament.
And she will be here on the next council meeting to be recognized.
Okay, because then we'll see how she performs at the state tournament. So
Right.
this can only get better. She won her sectional tournament, went to the district, qualified for state, which is the top 4, and she is poised to have an excellent completion to her senior season. So I look forward to that.
The athletic
Plus
director
being an
reached,
outstanding young lady.
athletic director reached out to me. We're going to honor the girls' basketball and her as a wrestler.
Very good.
Depending on her results. Well, she's going to get recognized either
She
way.
should be,
but
she should be
she's gonna
recognized.
get
Her
recognized.
results are already recognizable.
Yes.
It can only get better.
She's going to be either top 4, top 2, or number 1. So, Mr. Barr,
Can you come back?
Mr. Cole,
Nothing I can think of.
President Hollis,
Nope.
Mr. Green,
No.
Mr. Seelan.
Yes, actually left me stuff this time. So, beat me to the basketballs, wrestling. Legion breakfast, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend on the 15th. Big shout out to both Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Girl Scout cookies are still for sale, so catch them. I know you can catch them at the Kroger on the weekends, obviously throughout other places throughout the town. If you haven't already bought them, the boys, I want to try to work with the Pinewood Derby. They just had their Pinewood Derby. They had a couple qualify for, I guess, what would be the regional piece. So tugging at my heartstrings there. Fireworks. We are very close right now to funding the entire fireworks show right now, which is kind of impressive considering that the cost went up about $5,000 versus last year. So looking to tie up some little bit of loose ends of that. Having a good conversation with both the Greater Johnstown Parks and obviously with our fireworks emeritus, Ben Lee. So we're having a good handoff there with Greater Johnstown Parks with him. And got the fish fry starting at the Ascension on Friday, I think, right?
Correct.
62 Waterville League was covered. The Coffee with Council events have been interesting. Good feedback both via email and in person. Kind of riding a wave. First one was kind of slow, second one peaked. Third one was slow, so we're probably gonna do one sometime in March here again. And last but not least, Lisa Neff, a resident here, she is starting a uniform depot for Johnstown schools. There's families that are a little less fortunate, and again, with a uniform requirement at some of the schools, that sometimes an extra set of clothes for students can be difficult. She's actually into the process of basically recycling usable clothes from former students, as well as some other options here. So hopefully, in the next council meeting, I'm meeting with her Thursday to see what else what other support we can give her to kind of stand things up a little bit more for her. So, awesome. A little more to come with that, but yeah, that's it.
The Girl Scouts will be here the 18th to sell cookies and lead us in the pledge. So bring your money, everybody, to buy Girl Scout cookies. Mr. Stainer, do you have anything?
I'll get kicked out of my house if I don't bring up the musical that is happening this weekend.
Oh, good save.
So Sister Act, the musical, is this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Always, as usual, a great experience for the school. The kids do a terrific job every year. Last year was Little Mermaid. This year, Sister Act. So super excited to see that for various reasons. So
I'll bring this up cautiously. Sometimes the family members and parents of the performers go to every single show, which is great, but it makes it difficult for other folks to go. I don't have an answer, nor would I not go to every one when my children are there if they participate, but that's maybe something we should try to figure out to get more inclusive of the community, because the seats are gone.
Are they all sold out?
I don't know for sure, but I know year after year, we go every year. And year after year, we try to get in there, and we want to sit together, and sometimes we get, broken up. And I understand why, and I understand it, I get it, but maybe that's worth a discussion somewhere to try to see what that can possibly look like in the future.
I'll let you entertain that with the school.
That's why I said, hands up, but it's something that happens.
Maybe they build a bigger facility.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that either.
I don't
I
either.
thought they were expanding. Isn't that part of
I think
their?
it'd be a great conversation with the school liaison committee.
I mean, it's a great problem, right?
Who's on that
It's a
committee?
problem to have.
Yeah, who's on that committee?
Maybe. I think
It's nice to see the community support for it. I know at other schools, they probably have one evening.
That would be great.
Musical, for us to host 3 evenings and for them to have that much attendance,
Yeah.
it's really great.
it's great. They always do a good job.
You guys have anything over there? Awesome. Okay. Make a-
I'll take my 2 minutes
yes.
back. I just
Forgot
wanted
about
to give thanks to all the volunteer coaches with JYAA over the winter of wrestling and girls and boys basketball. I don't think I'm missing any other sports, but their season concluded 2 weekends ago. So just want to say thanks and gratitude to those that volunteer their time to the youth of our community.
The kindergartners just launched theirs, didn't they?
Yes, the younger kids just launched theirs just because of space and the program. More players each year. They have to wait till the older kids are done so that they can have the elementary gym during the months of March and April, I think, so.
I think AJ Stout quoted it as the most purest form of basketball, watching the little, what do you call the littles
Yeah.
playing. It's a blast.
Well, hopefully by this time next year, we'll have with our partnership, we'll have more gym space for these kids to get out there and have fun.
Absolutely.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.